Hi, welcome back to Review. The scene starts with Ophelia, a quiet 10-year-old who enjoys books and fairy tales. She is traveling with her mother, Carmen, to the rural village of Navarra, where Carmen's new husband, Captain Vidal, an officer in Franco's army, is stationed with his men at an old mill. Carmen is heavily pregnant with Vidal's child. Ophelia's father, a tailor, had died during the war. When Carmen and Ophelia arrive at the mill, stern Vidal is unconcerned about his new stepdaughter but takes great precautions to ensure Carmen's pregnancy goes smoothly. Ferrero, a local doctor, was hired to stay at the mill and care for Carmen. Ophelia wanders off into the nearby woods, where she comes across an unusual stone structure. Mercedes, Vidal's housekeeper, finds her and informs her that the structure is an ancient labyrinth that Ophelia should not enter lest she become lost. Mercedes guides Ophelia back to the house. Ophelia and Carmen settle into their bedroom. Dr. Ferrero speaks with Vidal in his office, explaining that Carmen should not have traveled so late in her pregnancy, which is already difficult. It becomes clear that Vidal only values Carmen as a vessel for his child, whom he believes will be a son to carry on his name. Vidal's tyrannical nature is revealed that night when he brutally murders two peasants who his men mistook for rebel fighters but were actually farmers looking for rabbits. Vidal realizes this after the men have died, but blames his soldiers for the mistake, telling them to learn to search properly before consulting him. Ophelia sleeps next to her mother that night. She is awakened in the middle of the night by the sound of fluttering wings and sees a large insect she had seen on the way to the mill. After Ophelia shows the insect a picture of a fairy from a book, the insect transforms into a tiny humanoid fairy and motions for Ophelia to follow it. It leads her to the stone labyrinth outside. When Ophelia arrives at the maze's underground center, she is greeted by a faun, a mystical creature that is half man, half goat. He informs Ophelia that she is the long-lost Princess Moana of the underground realm. The faun gives Ophelia a magic book containing 3 tasks that she must complete by the next full moon. Captain Vidal is hosting a dinner party for some local political figures at the mill. Carmen expects Ophelia's attendance and presents her with a lovely new dress and shoes for the occasion. Ophelia accepts the gifts with unenthusiastic gratitude because she is preoccupied with the first task. As Ophelia prepares to take a bath, she looks over the magic book, which tells her that the task must be completed that day. Ophelia escapes to the woods shortly before the dinner party, dressed in her new clothes. She discovers the fig tree and crawls into the cavern below. She manages to feed the magical stones to the enormous toad. The faun returns to Ophelia while she is locked away in her room. He has decided to give her one last chance to prove herself as Princess Moana. He informs her that the third and final task is to retrieve her infant brother and transport him to the center of the labyrinth. Using the magical chalk, Ophelia escapes her room and sneaks into Vidal's quarters, where the baby boy is kept. Ophelia hides in Vidal's room, taking a bottle of sedative previously administered to her mother by Ferrero and watching him sew up the horrifying gash in his cheek. While he is distracted, Ophelia heavily medicates his glass of scotch. As he drinks, the rebels launch an attack on the mill, resulting in gunfire and explosions. Vidal rushes to the doorway but begins to stagger as the drugs begin to take effect. Vidal sees a blurry image of Ophelia standing in the doorway with the baby, which she had gently removed from his cradle. Vidal stumbles after Ophelia as she runs with her brother to the labyrinth. In the end scene, Vidal emerges from the labyrinth with the baby, only to be greeted by a swarm of armed rebels, including Mercedes. Knowing he can't get away from them now, he hands his son to Mercedes and asks her to tell him one day when his father died. Mercedes assures him that the boy won't even know your name before he can finish his last request. This movie is definitely worth the watch. Thank you for watching my video. Please remember to subscribe.